Well, low back pain is serious business. I mean, you can't sit, you can't walk, it's hard to sleep.
It is, and so many people suffer from it. I mean, about 80% of adults will experience low back pain at some point in their lives. So what can we do?
Well, let's find out, because we're going to welcome back Dr. Drew Drummond with the Spinal Balance Health Center. Good to see you, doctor.
Good to see you. Thanks for having
You've
me.
been treating with people with these conditions for a long time.
Yeah.
And it can be really debilitating for a lot of people. Sometimes people can't even get out of bed.
Yeah, it gets bad. It gets bad for people. Most of the problems with low back pain keep going and are unsolved because the problems in the low back really don't start in the low back. The low back is a reaction to other things that happen with a person's posture. The posture will become imbalanced, and then the low back has to adapt to that. And all of our healthcare seems to be focused around what's going on with the low back. So if you take a step back from actually looking at the low back and start looking at a person's posture, you can really start solving some of those problems. And as it turns out, one of the main reasons that a posture becomes imbalanced is a problem way up at the top of the neck, not even close to the low back. So
it's amazing how that works.
It really is. In this picture, it shows you what happens. On the right side is a nice balanced posture. And our bodies, 90% of our energy is spent fighting gravity every day. That is the biggest stress on our body, and that right-hand symmetrical posture is our biggest tool for fighting it. But
so the right side is the good one.
Right side's the good
normal.
one. You got it.
Nice
Left
alignment.
side, bad one.
Well, you can see the curvature in the spine.
Yeah.
Up around the neck especially.
Yeah, when the top bone of the neck becomes misaligned through an accident or an injury, it could be an early life accident, it could be a car wreck when you're an adult, but it causes one side of the back to tighten more than the other because the nerves aren't controlling things properly anymore. And if you look all the way to the bottom, it creates a short leg when that side contracts. So you have to adapt to that short leg all the time, and the low back is the most common area to adapt to that problem. So if you just look at the low back, you're kind of spinning your wheels. You got to straighten the whole body out and get back to that right-handed person. Yeah.
That looked uncomfortable. I mean, that looked painful.
But you see people like that every day in your office.
Every day.
People
Every day.
don't
And
realize it.
and people that have done everything until finally we actually fix the problem and they straighten up. And I've seen 30 years of chronic back pain, people looking at surgeries, just immediately straighten up and the pain starts going away.
Yeah. Well, now we have to address this elephant in the room. I don't know
Well,
if our
I don't
audience
think I
can
see
see it, but I looked down and I'm like, there's a dumbbell sitting here.
Yeah.
Why you got a dumbbell?
Thought we'd lift weights a little bit.
Let's do it,
Well, I need to. Let's get going
No,
here.
in my office, this is probably the best example that I give new patients coming in to really understand why it is that I'm dealing with their low back pain at the top of the neck and not really addressing the low back.
Okay.
So,
Do you need to stand up to do this?
yeah,
go for
yeah.
it.
So,
Jake will get you.
okay, perfect. So, our bodies are designed to be symmetrical and balanced,
Right.
and in that posture, all the forces of gravity just evenly distribute. So if I turn this way, you can kind of see I have even shoulders, even hips, even legs. But as soon as I pick up the dumbbell, it's 35 pounds, immediately you can see that one shoulder goes high. It pulls me off of my center of
Your right
gravity.
shoulder goes down.
And forces me to adapt. I have to actually curve my body and lean the other way or I'd fall over. And so then that puts stress in your neck and your low back. Your neck and low back adapt to this problem that I just created. But the stresses now in my neck and low back would wear out and degenerate over time, except I'm going to get where I want to go. I'm going to put the dumbbell down and I'm going to go right back to my center of gravity.
Yeah.
And so then the stress leaves the back and the neck and low back. But with an upper cervical problem that's stuck there, people are constantly walking through life with an imbalanced posture and don't even know it's there, but it's just the same way as you're carrying a dumbbell.
Right.
But then when we adjust the atlas and get the nervous system problems figured out, then immediately the body straightens out. And sometimes it's just the first adjustment, the body straightens out, just like putting the dumbbell down. They go back to being balanced because the nerves are doing what they're supposed to.
I like the way that you put that. That was a great way. I mean, it reminds me of the picture that we saw on the screen, how that guy or that skeleton's body was just so out of whack, but it was like he has holding something there.
And what you do to get it back to correct the posture is very kind of a very scientific process that you go through to make sure you put it exactly back the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah, upper cervical care, it's cutting edge healthcare, and there's very, very few people doing it. Most people are treating the area that hurts. It's kind of it's an institutional problem that we have in our healthcare system. But if you can adjust the atlas in a way that gets that bone back in the right place, and we have to do it through a very specific x-ray. There's 3 x-ray units in the state that are NUCCA certified to take these films. We analyze them digitally. We mathematically calculate how a person's bone is out of place for their particular misalignment, how to correct it. So it's nothing this is not a low-tech solution. But ironically enough, then it's a hand adjustment, which is kind of low-tech.
It is low-tech, but it's very scientific in that process because how you adjust it, you're taking a lot of calculation into consideration.
Yeah, it comes down to math. It's really low back problem is an upper cervical math issue. You have to figure out the math and the geometry to the misalignment and know how to correct it. And then once those nerves start functioning better, immediately, just like snapping my fingers, it doesn't take the nerves of my brain long to get out to my fingers and make that snap. And it's the same way when you correct the top of the neck. Immediately, the nerves travel out to the back and straighten you out.
What about people that have disc issues in the vertebrae?
No, that's a good question, because people think their low back problem is because of a disc issue. But really, the disc issue is only occurring because the low back has been adapting for so long, and those irregular stresses in their low back have deteriorated the disc and caused it to bulge. So many doctors have told a person, hey, your back pain, it's because of a disc bulge. They'll come into my office and they'll say, well, I know what my problem is, it's my disc bulge. And it's really not. The disc bulge is just a result.
If you would straighten the back, the disc bulge might not be as symptomatic.
Yeah, or wouldn't be symptomatic.
Or wouldn't be at all.
Yeah, there's people that have pain in a disc bulge. There's some people that have disc bulge with no pain.
Is it because those vertebrae are pushing against it?
Well, the vertebrae are designed to put even pressure on a disc. And when the low back is adapting and putting uneven pressure on a disc, it causes the disc to break down, and then the middle of the disc bulges out.
And this is the actual procedure.
Yeah, this is what we would do to evaluate somebody coming in our office. We do a leg check to see if the leg is pulled up, because we showed on that other picture how the muscles pull the leg up. Here I'm looking at the hips to see if they're even. We look at the shoulders. We look to see if the person's leaning to the side. We basically are measuring to see if the body is symmetrical. And if the body is not symmetrical, then we move them into the x-ray room and take this extremely specific set of x-rays to see what the misalignment is doing, because it's sometimes small, 3/4 of a degree of a misalignment, which you've really got to be careful to even see it.
Very mathematical.
It is, yeah.
And you like to bring special offers for our viewers, which
I love
is fantastic. So what offer did you bring with you today?
Well, normally to come into my office, it's $95 for an exam, and then $180 for x-ray, which is $275. But for people that call in, it's going to be $50. So, and I've had people will tell me,
that's the whole thing.
That's
altogether.
the whole thing.
Yeah.
And a lot of people I'll talk to, they're like, well, I'll think about it. And it's like, I tell them, I have helped a lot of people that come into my office and make that action step to do something. I have never helped anyone that thought about it. It's like that is beyond my ability
if
to
you
help
want
people
to
thinking
feel
about it.
Better, it doesn't hurt.
That's tremendous value. Yeah, $50. X-rays alone, you know, I mean, we all know how much X-rays are. Anyway, spinalbalancehd.com is a website you can go to. Doctor, thanks for coming in today.
Thank you. That was very informative.
Yeah, very informative.
Very interesting.
Take your dumbbell with you.
You sure don't work out a little bit in between commercial breaks.
Appreciate it, yeah. And after that break,